It was Christmas Eve, and the atmosphere in Eva's house was one of warmth and quiet anticipation. The soft glow of fairy lights twinkled on the Christmas tree in the corner of the living room, and a scent of gingerbread filled the air. Eva hummed a quiet tune to herself as she arranged the table, setting out bowls of candy, cookies, and warm mugs of cocoa for when her 9-year-old daughter Zara came downstairs. The year had been tough. Eva had faced countless challenges: financial troubles, the constant juggling of work and home life, and the emotional strain of trying to protect Zara from the cold, indifferent world they lived in. But tonight, she had hoped, would be different. It was Christmas, the one time of year when, for just a few moments, everything could feel right again. Zara had been excited about Christmas, her wide eyes filled with wonder as they decorated the tree just that morning. She had insisted on hanging the star on top herself, and Eva had watched her little girl beam with pride as she did. There was something special in the air that night. The promise of a fresh start, of healing, seemed so close, within reach. But as Eva placed the last plate on the table, her phone rang, shattering the peaceful silence of the house. She glanced at the caller ID. It was an unknown number, but she picked up anyway. Maybe it was a last-minute delivery, or her mother calling to wish her a Merry Christmas. The phone's shrill ring seemed to reverberate through the quiet house, and as soon as she answered, Eva knew something was wrong. "Mum, something's wrong," Zara's voice came through the line, trembling and full of fear. Eva's heart dropped into her stomach. Zara had never sounded like this before, so shaken, so vulnerable. "What happened, sweetheart?" Eva's voice was gentle, but there was an edge of panic creeping into her words. "I found a note," Zara continued, her voice breaking. "They're gone, Mom. They left me here all alone." Eva's mind spun as she tried to process what Zara was saying. Her ex-husband, Zara's father, had never been a reliable figure in their lives. He'd always been distant, selfish, and cold. But to leave Zara alone on Christmas Eve? Eva's blood ran cold. "Who left you? Where are they now?" Eva demanded, her voice shaking with a mix of concern and disbelief. They just left. "I don't know where they went, Mum. I don't know what to do." Zara sobbed into the phone, the sound of her crying breaking Eva's heart. It was always the moment for a man who was carrying around. She was transported to a place of anger, fear, and overwhelming protectiveness. This was not how Christmas was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a time of love and togetherness, not abandonment. "Don't worry, darling," Eva said, her voice now steady and reassuring, despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "I'm coming to get you right now. I'll be there in a few minutes. Just stay safe, okay? Stay where you are." As she hung up the phone, Eva rushed to grab her coat and keys. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of what Zara had said. Why would they leave her alone like that? Was this the culmination of all the neglect, the emotional abuse that had been so prevalent in their lives? Eva quickly pushed the thoughts aside. There was no time for wondering. Zara needed her, and she would get to her, no matter what. She grabbed her bag, stormed out of the house, and into the bitter cold of the December night. The air bit at her skin, but she didn't feel it. All she could think about was Zara, her baby girl, abandoned and alone. The phone's sharp ring echoed in the quiet room, cutting through the peaceful hum of the house. Eva picked it up without hesitation, expecting a simple holiday call. But the voice on the other end wasn't familiar in the way she had hoped. "Mom, something's wrong," Zara's voice crackled through, strained and full of terror. Eva's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't the sweet, excited tone she had been expecting from her daughter. "Zara?" Eva asked, her voice trembling as she instinctively clutched the phone tighter. "What's wrong? Where are you? Are you safe?" I found a note," Zara's voice broke, as if the words were too heavy for her to say. "They're gone, Mom. They left me here, all alone." Eva's world tilted on its axis. The room seemed to close in on her, the walls pressing against her chest. Zara's voice was so small, so vulnerable. How could anyone leave their child alone on Christmas Eve? Who's gone, Zara? Where is everyone? Eva's voice was sharper now, her protective instincts kicking in. They just left, Mum. There's a note. I don't know where they went. I don't know what to do, Zara sobbed through the phone. Eva could hear the panic rising in her daughter's voice, and the helplessness in her words cut through Eva's soul like a blade. Eva's breath caught in her throat. Her ex-husband, Alex, had always been distant and unpredictable, but this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. To leave Zara, of all people, alone on a night that should have been filled with joy, love, and warmth, it was beyond cruel. Eva forced herself to take a deep breath. Okay, sweetheart, listen to me. Don't move. Stay right where you are. I'm coming to get you. I'm on my way. I promise. Just hang in there. Zara's crying grew softer, but the fear still lingered in her voice. Okay, Mom, please hurry. I'm scared. Eva's heart broke. She couldn't imagine the terror her daughter must be feeling right now. Christmas Eve, the one night of the year when every child should feel safe and loved, had turned into a nightmare, and Eva wouldn't stand for it. Without a second thought, Eva dropped the phone onto the counter and grabbed her coat from the back of the door. The air in the house was cold now, colder than it had been just moments ago, as though the warmth had been stolen by the fear and panic swirling inside her. She shoved her keys into her pocket and rushed outside, the bitter cold biting at her skin as she slammed the door behind her. The snow crunched beneath her boots as she made her way to the car, her mind racing. How could Alex do this? How could anyone? There was no time to question his actions. Zara needed her now. The drive felt like it took forever, though it was only a few minutes from Eva's house to Zara's. But with every passing second, her mind spiraled further. Where had Alex gone? Why had he left Zara behind like this? And most importantly, where was Zara now? Eva's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white from the pressure. The familiar route to Zara's house, usually comforting, now felt foreign and ominous. The houses she passed, decorated with holiday lights and wreaths, seemed to mock her with their cheerfulness. How could everything look so festive when her little girl was alone and scared? As Eva turned onto the street where Zara lived, she saw the faint glow of Christmas lights in the windows of the house. But something was off. There was no sign of movement. No lights on in the living room. No reflection of a television screen. It was eerily still. She parked the car, her heartbeat quickening as she stepped out into the freezing air. The cold hit her like a slap to the face, but Eva didn't care. Nothing mattered except getting to Zara. Eva rushed up the porch steps and knocked on the door, her breath visible in the air, swirling in the cold night. She knocked again, harder this time, her fists trembling with anxiety. Finally, the door creaked open, and there stood Zara, her small face pale and tear-streaked, her eyes wide with fear. The sight of her daughter standing there, so fragile and alone, nearly shattered Ava's resolve. Zara didn't speak at first. She just stood there, staring at her mother, as if waiting for Ava to say the right words, to somehow make everything better. Ava knelt down in front of her daughter and gently pulled her into her arms. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here now. You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you. Zara clung to her mother, her small body shaking with sobs. Mum, they left me. They just left me alone. I don't understand. Eva's heart shattered as she held her daughter tighter. I know, baby. I know. But you're not alone anymore. I'm here. And we're going to be okay. I promise. Eva led Zara inside, her mind still racing with questions. She needed to understand what had happened, why Alex would leave their daughter like this. But first, she needed to make sure Zara was safe and calm. Everything else could wait for now. Zara sat on the couch, her little hands clutching her stuffed bear, her eyes still filled with fear. Eva sat beside her, gently brushing her daughter's hair away from her face. The soft glow of the Christmas tree lights flickered in the background, casting a gentle light over the room. But the festive atmosphere felt hollow, a cruel reminder of what should have been a time of joy. "Sweetheart," Eva said softly, "tell me everything. What did the note say?" Zara sniffled and wiped her nose with the sleeve of her sweater before handing over the small piece of paper. Eva took it carefully, her hands trembling as she unfolded the note. The words were written in Alex's familiar scrawl, though they seemed hastily written, as if he had been in a hurry to leave. The note read, "Zara, we need some time apart. Don't worry about us. We'll be back soon. Take care of yourself. Love, Dad." Eva's stomach twisted in knots as she read the words. It was so cold, so detached, it didn't make any sense. How could Alex just leave his own daughter behind, without even explaining why? "Did he say anything else, Zara? Anything at all?" Eva asked, her voice tight with anger and confusion. Zara shook her head, her lip quivering. "No, Mom. He didn't say anything. He just left." Eva felt a wave of fury wash over her. How dare Alex do this to her daughter? How dare he think it was okay to leave Zara alone like that? Eva had always known he wasn't a good father, but this was unforgivable. She stood up abruptly, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm going to find Jan. I'm going to make him answer for this." Eva quickly gathered Zara's things, her coat, her shoes, a few essentials, and packed them into a small bag. She wasn't staying here. She wouldn't let her daughter be abandoned in this empty house with nothing but a cold note to explain the situation. "I don't want to stay here, Mum," Zara whispered, her voice small. "I'm scared." Eva knelt down beside her daughter, her hand resting on Zara's knee. "I know, baby, and we won't stay here. We're leaving, okay? We're going to start fresh, just you and me. We'll find somewhere safe." Zara's eyes widened with surprise. "You mean you're not going back to him?" Eva took a deep breath, her gaze firm. "No, I'm not. I can't. Not after this. You deserve so much better than that, Zara. You deserve to be safe and happy." Zara smiled weakly, her small hand reaching out to squeeze her mother's. "I love you, Mum. I love you too, sweetheart." Eva replied, her voice soft but filled with determination. Together they left the house and stepped into the cold night, ready to begin a new chapter, one where they could finally escape the cruelty that had haunted their lives for too long. Eva and Zara drove in silence, the weight of the evening hanging heavily between them. The snow continued to fall softly, coating the streets in a thin layer of white. Eva kept her eyes on the road, but her mind was racing. How had things gotten this bad? How could Alex have left their daughter like that? The hum of the car engine was the only sound, and Eva wished for a moment that she could turn back time before everything had fallen apart. But there was no turning back. All she could do now was protect Zara. "Where are we going, Mum?" Zara's voice broke through the quiet, soft and hesitant. "We're going somewhere safe," Eva replied, glancing at her daughter briefly. "Somewhere where no one can hurt us." Zara nodded quietly, clutching her stuffed bear tightly in her lap. She was so brave, Eva thought. Her little girl, so small and innocent, had already been through so much. And now, she was about to face an uncertain future without the stability she once knew. Eva drove for miles, crossing familiar streets that now felt strange. She passed their old apartment complex, the one she and Zara had lived in before the divorce. Memories rushed back, both good and bad. She remembered the nights they would sit together, watching movies on the couch, eating takeout, and laughing. She had tried so hard to make Zara's childhood a happy one, but all of that had been shattered when Alex's cruelty had driven them apart. Now Eva was determined to rebuild, to give Zara a life where they could both feel safe and loved. I'm scared, Mum, Zara whispered, pulling Eva back to reality. What if they come after us? Eva reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. We're going to be okay, I promise. No one is going to hurt us again. Not now, not ever. Zara didn't respond, but Eva could feel the weight of her fear. Eva shared it too. But this was the only path forward. Eva knew they couldn't stay in one place for too long, not with Alex's unpredictable behavior. She had to find a place where they could start over, a place where they could find peace and healing, but she wasn't sure where that was yet. She pulled into a small motel on the outskirts of town, far enough away from their old life to feel like a fresh start. The neon sign flickered weakly, but it was warm inside. The smell of stale coffee and carpet cleaner greeted them as they stepped through the door. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, handed Eva a key to a room at the back of the building. You two need a place to stay for the night? Just for tonight, Eva said, her voice steady. We're just passing through. Zara stayed close to her mother as they made their way to the room, the sounds of their footsteps muffled by the worn carpet. Inside the motel room, the dim light from a single lamp cast shadows on the walls. The air smelled musty, but it was a safe place for now. Eva set down the bag and immediately checked the locks on the door. She wanted to be sure they were secure. Zara climbed onto the bed, curling up with her stuffed bear. Are we going to be okay, Mum? She asked quietly, her voice full of uncertainty. Eva sat down beside her, brushing her daughter's hair back from her face. Yes, sweetheart. We're going to be just fine. But even as she said the words, Eva wasn't so sure. They were in uncharted territory, both of them, trying to escape a life they had been trapped in for so long. As the night stretched on, Eva couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't truly safe. Alex had always been unpredictable, and now, with Zara gone, he is bound to be furious. What would he do? Would he come after them? She didn't want to think about that. She had to focus on Zara, on the future. There was no room for fear, no room for doubt. Mom, can we go home soon? Zara asked, her voice tinged with hope. I miss our old house. Eva hesitated. The truth was, she missed it too. The life they had before things fell apart. But it wasn't a home anymore. It was just a house, and Zara deserved better than that. I know you miss it, sweetheart, Eva said softly, brushing a tear from her daughter's cheek. But we'll make a new home. Together. Zara smiled faintly, the tiniest glimmer of hope in her eyes. Eva couldn't sleep. She lay awake in the dark, listening to the soft sounds of the motel room, Zara's even breathing, the occasional creak of the building settling. Her mind refused to quiet. She thought about calling the police, reporting Alex for leaving Zara alone, but she wasn't sure if that was the right move yet. She didn't want to escalate things. Not yet. Instead, Eva focused on something else, rebuilding. She had to focus on the future, on creating a life where Zara could feel safe and loved again. They would leave this small town behind. There were places where no one knew them, places where they could start fresh, without fear. The next morning, Eva and Zara left the motel room early. They stopped at a diner for breakfast, where Eva tried to act normal, even though her stomach was tied in knots. Zara picked at her pancakes, not saying much, but Eva could see the fear in her daughter's eyes. Mom, Zara said quietly, do you think we'll ever see Dad again? Eva paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. She hadn't expected that question so soon. What could she say? The truth, that Alex was dangerous and unpredictable, that she wasn't sure they'd ever be safe around him again. I don't know, sweetheart, Eva said gently. But I do know that right now, we need to focus on us, on making sure you're safe and happy. That's all that matters. Zara nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. The fear was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. Eva wished she could take it all away, make everything better. Eva knew they couldn't stay in the small town for much longer. They had to move on. But where? Where could they go to escape Alex and his cruelty? She had a cousin in another state, a place far from here, a place where they could disappear for a while. Eva hadn't spoken to her cousin in years, but she remembered that she had a small house in a quiet town. Eva pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed the number. Her cousin, Lauren, answered on the second ring. "Eva, is everything okay? I need your help," Eva said, her voice breaking. "I'm in trouble. It's Zara. We need a place to stay. We need somewhere safe." Lauren's voice softened. "Of course. Where are you?" Eva gave her cousin the details, and within minutes Lauren was on the phone again, giving her directions to a small town several hours away. "We'll be there soon," Eva whispered to Zara. "We're going to be okay." By the time they arrived at Lauren's house, the sun had begun to set. The air was crisp, and the town felt peaceful. Eva could already feel the tension in her shoulders start to loosen. Lauren greeted them at the door, her arms wide open. "Welcome," she said warmly. "You're safe here." Zara looked up at her mum, her eyes wide with relief. "Are we really safe now?" Eva nodded, her heart swelling with a new sense of hope. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe." That night, as Eva tucked Zara into bed in the small guest room, she finally allowed herself to relax. They were far from the life they had known, far from the pain and cruelty of Alex. This was their chance to start over, to rebuild. "Good night, sweetie," Eva whispered, as she kissed Zara on the forehead. "Good night, Mum," Zara replied, her voice soft with trust. The next few days passed in a blur. Lauren helped them settle in, offering a safe space where Eva could start over. They found a small apartment in town, close to a school where Zara could start fresh. It was a modest beginning, but it was theirs. Eva found a part-time job at a local cafe, and though money was tight, she felt a sense of pride. They were on their own, but they were free. Time passed, and with each day that passed in their new home, Eva began to feel a sense of healing that she had longed for. Zara started to blossom again, the playful and curious little girl she once was returning to the surface. It wasn't just the fresh start that made it possible. It was the safety, the absence of fear that had haunted them both for so long. Each morning, Eva woke up with a renewed sense of hope. She no longer had to check the locks on every door, constantly look over her shoulder, or wonder what Alex might do next. For the first time in years, they were living in peace. Zara made a new friend at school, a girl named Lily, who had a love for art just like her. They spent afternoons drawing and laughing, their giggles filling the air with a lightness Eva hadn't realized she missed. It wasn't just that Zara was making friends, it was the fact that she was rediscovering joy, a joy that had been stifled by the oppressive atmosphere of their old life. For the first time, Zara asked to go outside and play after school, her laughter echoing through the small backyard of their new apartment. Eva watched from the kitchen window as her daughter ran around with Lily, her face flushed with excitement. There were no more shadows lurking in the corners of their lives. They were free. But there were moments, still, when the fear crept back in. Zara would wake up in the middle of the night, eyes wide and panicked, whispering about dreams of her father's angry face. Eva would hold her close, gently soothing her until she fell back asleep. It was a reminder of how deep the trauma ran and how long it would take to fully erase the scars that Alex had left behind. But Eva had learned to be patient, with Zara and with herself.